I know why you're here. You're tired of seeing everyone talk about the broken combination blow build, maybe you don't want to run Nighthawk and Still Hunt, or maybe you're on Warlock or Titan and want to use this exact same build for yourself. Well, you're in luck. I've been testing a number of different prismatic builds to see if there are some fun alternatives to the already quickly defined meta, and I think I found something amazing. This build will have you spamming tons of abilities, going transcendent extremely quickly, all while providing healing and damage resistance to yourself. Plus, this build could be used universally on any class with some minor tweaks. So what are you waiting for? Hey everyone, I'm Rizeki and welcome to my build guide for the Prismatic Hunter in Destiny 2. As always, thanks so much for checking out the video. If you end up liking the build and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. I'm going to be doing more Destiny analysis videos and build guides over the coming weeks, and you won't want to miss any of them. In my early analysis of the new exotic class items, I assumed some exotic perks would be underpowered or just not very useful on hunters. But I decided to try out one of these particular combinations, and I was blown away by how fun and potent it actually was. I'm of course talking about the Spirit of Inmost Light and Spirit of Verity combo. At its core, Spirit of Inmost Light will be the main driver for our gameplay loop. Using an ability will increase the energy regeneration for the other two abilities. So if you use a grenade, you can quickly regain it by using your other abilities. Even on its own, you'll be able to quickly regenerate abilities to use them with a much faster uptime than before, and you're not locked into using specific abilities either. On the Liar's Handshake build, you must use Combination Blow and Gambler's Dodge. On this Hoyle build, you could use pretty much any abilities that you want. Okay, so we have a great base by taking advantage of Spirit of Inmost Light, but what else do we have? Our other exotic class item perk is going to be Spirit of Verity. This perk will grant your grenades a stacking damage buff based on the number of kills you get with a weapon of a matching energy type. For example, using an arc weapon like Risk Runner will increase the damage caused by your arc bolt grenades. And this damage buff is huge. At max stacks of death throws, your grenades could deal about double the damage they normally do. In combination with Spirit of Inmost Light, you should be able to throw a ton of grenades quickly, all with the benefit of your stacking damage buff. But Spirit of Verity gives us a couple more sneaky benefits as well. If you didn't know, your prismatic grenades will also benefit from the grenade damage buff. So even while transcendent, you are going to continue to benefit from it. With the absolutely insane ability regen while transcendent, mixed with the regen from Spirit of Inmost Light, you'll be throwing an absolutely insane number of empowered grenades, one after the other. All of this works on every class, not just hunters. Titans and Warlocks alike could also use this class item combination to do exactly the same thing. But there is something hunters have that is uniquely theirs. The gunpowder gamble aspect will replace your hunter grenade with a powerful explosive after defeating targets with abilities, elemental debuff damage, or a solar weapon. Gunpowder Gamble's explosive does in fact benefit from the damage buff provided by Spirit of Verity. Keep in mind that you will need to use a solar weapon to earn stacks of death throws, otherwise the damage buff will not apply to Gunpowder Gamble. To make the most out of our Gunpowder Gamble aspect and Spirit of Verity, we should also opt to take Swarm Grenades, since it will also benefit from the solar death throws stacks. Keep in mind that Gunpowder Gamble will not proc Spirit of Inmost Light, so you will still need to use your regular Swarm Grenade to gain increased ability regen for your dodge and your melee abilities. Speaking of your melee, you have a number of options, although I have a strong recommendation. In short, you could use any melee you would like. Your melee choice will not make or break that build, but we could take a specific melee to better optimize our chances of becoming transcendent, as well as allowing us to keep a higher uptime on our Spirit of Inmost Light regen. The stasis melee, Withering Blade, is the perfect choice here. At a top level, this is a darkness ability. Since our grenades are light damage, balancing out our prismatic build with a darkness damage source will give us a faster way to build transcendent energy. The slow provided by the Withering Blade can also be used to proc a number of other effects, such as aspects and fragments that we will take to round out the build, which I will get into a bit later. The other massive benefit to using Withering Blade is its 2 charges. Having a melee ability specifically with 2 charges allows us to better maintain our empowered grenade ability regen provided by Spirit of Inmost Light. If used correctly, you should have almost constant uptime on the improved regen for your grenade, so you could throw as many empowered grenades as possible. The other ability we're going to take is Gambler's Dodge. Although you could take either of the other dodge options, Gambler's Dodge will be another way to refresh an ability, namely our Withering Blade melee. So you could again have another avenue for maintaining your Spirit of Inmost Light ability regen. If you're running either a Warlock or a Titan, your options will be slightly different, but will revolve around the same concept. Warlocks, you should take Vortex Grenade and Arcane Needle. Titans, taking Pulse Grenade and Frenzied Blade is the best for you. Neither class has access to Gambler's Dodge, but with 3 charges for Arcane Needle and Frenzied Blade, you should be able to maintain a similar Inmost Light uptime to Hunters. Getting back to Hunter, we still have our second aspect to choose. Luckily, this is mostly up to how you like to play. Personally, I like to pick Threaded Spectre or Stylish Execution. Both are good choices to improve our survivability, with a small trade-off depending on what you pick. Threaded Spectre will create a clone that attracts enemy attention, and will create threadlings on death that attack nearby targets. In addition, you will have 3 fragment slots. Stylish Execution will grant you invisibility, but only will provide you with 2 fragment slots. I personally prefer Threaded Spectre for the extra fragment slot, but you could opt for Stylish if that's more your style. The only aspect I would shy away from is Ascension. This is because Ascension will eat the charge of your dodge class ability while not proccing Spirit of Inmost Light. On the other classes, you could pretty much pick anything as well. For Warlocks, I would recommend Feed the Void for Devour. Although I haven't tested it for myself yet on Warlock, I would assume that Bleak Watcher behaves similarly to Ascension on Hunter. So probably stay away from that aspect unless you can confirm that it works with Spirit of Inmost Light. For Titans, I would recommend Knockout for access to healing on melee kills with no other restrictions on your other aspect choice. Fragments will be the final piece to round out the build. To recap, we have a couple of goals here. Number 1 is to have high ability uptime, number 2 is to have sources of sustain and survivability, and 3, we want to transcend as quickly as possible. I'm going to assume that you opted for Gunpowder Gamble and Threaded Spectre on Hunter, giving you 6 total fragment slots. If you have a different number of fragments, you could drop or add fragments as necessary. Let's start with fragments that improve our ability regeneration. Facet of Balance is an obvious first choice. Since we took a light grenade ability and a darkness melee ability, we should have a source for both types of damage. Defeating targets with our empowered grenades will grant melee energy, while defeating targets with our melee will grant grenade energy. This should greatly improve the regeneration of all of our damaging abilities. But that leaves our class ability. Luckily, there's a fragment for that too. Facet of Hope will improve our class ability regeneration while we have an elemental buff. There are a couple ways to gain an elemental buff, such as Facet of Dawn, but I'm going to go down a different route. Since we have access to the seasonal artifact mod Radiant Orbs, we could become Radiant simply by picking up an Orb of Power, eliminating the need completely for Facet of Dawn, at least for the current season. Next, we want to quickly become Transcendent. There are a couple fragments that work together in harmony to achieve this. For one, I opted for Facet of Awakening, which will create an elemental pickup based on the damage type used to rapidly defeat targets. If you're running a solar weapon, you'll be able to easily make fire sprites, for example. If we also take Facet of Honor, we could collect these pickups to gain additional Transcendent energy matching the type of elemental pickup collected. So picking up something like a fire sprite will grant you light energy. Plus, Fire Sprites and Stasis Shards will grant bonus grenade and melee energy on pickup, respectively, making this fragment even more beneficial. And finally, Facet of Sacrifice will synergize with our Radiant Orb seasonal mod to grant bonus Darkness Transcendent energy when we defeat targets with abilities while Radiant. The final fragment is going to be Facet of Mending to cure you when defeating targets with your grenades. Important to note here is that Gunpowder Gamble does not apply cure on kills with this fragment. You could also opt for Facet of Blessing if you'd rather start health regeneration on melee final blows. But with the number of empowered grenades we're using, whether that's your swarm grenades or your transcendent grenades, you should be gaining healing from Facet of Mending pretty quickly. Oh, I also left out your super, and that's for good reason. Your super choice has no impact on this build, so pick what you like or what best fits the activity you're currently playing. Golden Gun will be great for taking down big targets, while something like Silence and Squall will help with ad control. My final recommendations are for your weapons and your armor mods. Your primary weapon should match the energy type of your grenade in order to better proc Spirit of Verity. On Hunter, since you're using swarm grenades and Gunpowder Gamble, you should definitely be taking a powerful solar weapon such as Sunshot, or even Red Death if you want additional healing sources. It could also be helpful to run either a stasis or strand weapon in your kinetic slot to help bump up your Darkness Transcendent energy. The new strand rocket pistol, the Call, is a great choice for this slot. Your heavy weapon will again be dependent on your current activity and your needs. The armor mod setup here is pretty standard, with the priority being ability regen. On your helmet, Ashes to Assets will give you a ton of super energy since you'll be using lots of grenades. Also, have a copy of a siphon mod matching your grenade element to help create orbs of power. Arms should include a copy or two of either firepower or heavy-handed. These mods will help generate orbs of power in order to better make use of radiant orbs from our seasonal artifact. You could also choose to replace these with grenade or melee kickstart mods if you'd prefer that. Chest armor mods are going to only include resist mods that you need for the activity or encounter you're currently in, so there's not much to say here. Legs, on the other hand, can be all surge mods, all recuperation, or better already, or some combination of the three. And lastly, your class item should have a copy of Reaper as well as a combination of Bomber and Outreach to further increase your ability regen and orb generation capabilities. And that's the build. It's a pretty easy build to play, but you do have a couple of resources and buffs that you need to keep track of. This build works best when you use your abilities liberally. As long as you have a melee charge ready to refresh your Spirit of Inmost Light regen buff, you should be able to consistently maintain the empowered regen for your other abilities. Think of your melee as a catalyst for gaining grenade energy, since that's actually its #1 job. At the same time, don't forget to weave weapon final blows in between ability usage. You will need to keep stacks of death throws up as much as you can in order to maintain the maximum amount of damage with your grenades. This is especially important to remember while transcendent, since it's very easy to forget about death throw stacks when you have near infinite uptime on your abilities. As long as you keep your abilities up and you pay attention to your buffs, you'll be able to quickly clear rooms and keep yourself healthy. This build is one of the most fun ability spam builds in the game, and the fact that you could use it on pretty much every class in the game is absolutely amazing. If you're playing either Warlock or Titan, let me know what the best subclass options you found are. I'd love to hear how you're able to best use this build. And of course, if you are a hunter, I hope you enjoy blowing everything up with your 100,000 damage gunpowder gamble grenades. As always, I've left a dim link in the video description to help you get up and running with this build as soon as possible. You'll still have to farm for the class item though if you don't already have it. If you did enjoy this build, let me know by leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel for future build guides and more. But with all that said, I think that's all I've got for now. As always, I've been Rizeki, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.